It was supposed to be an ordinary night at sea. 4 fishermen aboard the Antares, a small Scottish trawler, cast their nets into the cold black waters between Ireland and Scotland. The wind was calm, the radio silent, and the sea deceptively peaceful. But beneath those same waters, something massive and unseen was moving. A British Royal Navy submarine, gliding silently through the dark. In a matter of seconds, calm turned into chaos. The trawler shuddered, tilted, and vanished beneath the waves without a single distress call. 4 men were gone. No explosion. No warning, just silence. When the truth surfaced days later, it shocked an entire nation. What really happened that night wasn't an accident of the sea. It was a tragedy born in the depths, where secrets of war met the lives of men who only wanted to fish. For the men of the Antares, the sea was not just a place of work, it was home. They had spent their lives reading the rhythm of the waves, trusting the pull of the tides, and knowing every sound the ocean made. On the night of November 22nd, 1990, they set out from the Scottish port of Carradale, just as they had countless times before. The crew, seasoned, disciplined, and bound by friendship, fished the familiar waters of the Firth of Clyde, a stretch long shared by Irish and Scottish fishermen alike. The radar was clear, the weather forgiving, and there was no reason to believe anything could go wrong. Yet beneath that same stretch of water, a silent machine of war prowled unseen, following its own mission, blind to the fragile world above. What happened next would turn a routine voyage into one of the most haunting maritime tragedies in modern British and Irish memory. The day of the disaster, it was just past midnight when the Antares was last heard on radio. Fishermen nearby recalled the calm, the faint lights across the water, and the hum of engines echoing through the mist. Then, without warning, one of those lights disappeared. Unnoticed beneath them, the Royal Navy submarine HMS Trenchant was conducting covert training exercises. Its sonar, the eyes of a submarine, failed to detect the small wooden trawler above. Within moments, the submarine's towing cable caught the Antares netline. The pull was catastrophic. The trawler was yanked backward, its stern rising violently before it capsized. In seconds, it vanished beneath the surface, swallowed by the dark. Nearby boats saw nothing but ripples. There was no mayday, no flares, no sound, only the vast empty silence of the sea. When the sun rose, the Antares had vanished completely. Families waited at the harbor, scanning the horizon, unaware that the truth lay hidden hundreds of feet below. The investigation begins, 190 words. By dawn, the Coast Guard had launched a full search. Helicopters hovered over the grey waters, lifeboats combed the surface, and every local fisherman joined in the desperate hunt. Hours turned into a day, then 2. Still, there was no sign of life. When divers finally found the wreck, they discovered the Antares resting on the seabed, nets tangled, hull crushed. It looked as if it had been pulled under with incredible force. The cause was unclear. At first, theories ranged from sudden mechanical failure to freak weather. But the sea had been calm that night. Nothing fit, then, whispers began. Another vessel had been in the area, a submarine part of a Royal Navy exercise.
Navy submarine
Locals spoke quietly of radar interference, of shadows beneath the waves, but the Navy said nothing. The submarine revelation days later, under growing public pressure, the Royal Navy finally admitted what many had suspected. One of its submarines, HMS Trenchant, had been operating in the same area at the exact time the Antares went down. During a routine training maneuver, the submarine's sonar failed to detect the trawler above. The trawler's fishing gear became entangled with the submarine's towed sonar array, a cable stretching hundreds of meters behind the vessel. In that instant, the Antares was pulled backward and down, dragged beneath the surface before the submarine crew even realized what had happened. By the time HMS Trenchant surfaced, it was too late. The sea had already claimed the fishermen. When investigators pieced the sequence together, the reality was chilling. A machine built for stealth and survival had in peacetime destroyed 4 innocent lives. Aftermath and public reaction. The aftermath was marked by sorrow, disbelief, and anger. Families in Carradale mourned their lost husbands, fathers, and sons, men who had set out to fish and never returned. Irish and Scottish fishing communities stood together in grief, demanding justice and accountability. Public outrage forced the Navy into a full inquiry. The findings were undeniable. The Antares had been dragged down by a Royal Navy submarine. The commander of HMS Trenchant was held responsible for failing to maintain a safe distance from surface vessels. In response, new safety protocols were introduced. Submarines were required to maintain greater awareness when operating near fishing zones, especially around the Irish Sea, where hundreds of trawlers worked daily. Reflection and closing message, more than 3 decades later. The story of the Antares still echoes through coastal towns of Ireland and Scotland. Fishermen speak of it quietly, not just as a tragedy but as a warning. The sea, after all, holds both beauty and peril. It connects nations, feeds families, and yet it never truly forgives carelessness. The Royal Navy called it an accident. The families called it negligence. But to those who understand the ocean, it was something deeper. A reminder that beneath every calm surface lies uncertainty.